Wheels up. Welcome back to another episode of the Catalyst podcast. I'm very excited to have Marc Halpert here with us today. We are going to continue the At the Core series as we really want to unpack very, very meaningful stories about foundation, about platforms, about really, what's at the core professionally, personally, that's driving the engine that's really fueling the fire. And so I think that, it'll be great to get into this story and kind of hear from Marc's perspective. Marc and I connected recently through LinkedIn and through a mutual friend that we've networked with through LinkedIn. And so I know I've talked a little bit about my story and how I've done a complete 180 over the last 12 months and how I view and use LinkedIn as a professional tool. And Marc is light years ahead of me in that. So I'm excited to ask some questions and hear, what Marc has to say. And then we're going to get into some other, just more personal and spiritual aspects of it as well. So Marc, it goes without saying that I'm super excited to have you on the Catalyst podcast. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. This is the type of thing that I love doing because everybody has a story. Everybody has something to say. Everybody's amazing. If I sat with you for about 5 minutes, I've already done that with you, Hunter. I mean, that was easy. With other people, it's not so easy. But eventually we get to what makes them amazing. The job we each have to do is to make ourselves amazinger. That's my word, amazinger than the competition. And that competition is however you define it. Could be competition for a job, competition in a business transaction. Anytime we're all evaluating each other, like you're evaluating me right now, I'm evaluating Hunter right now. This is how we decided we would both work on this together because we found common ground. Amazinger than just any old person who wanders in. And it was nice that people referred me to Hunter. To be honest, all truth told, you're like the sixth generation of podcasters that I have been referred to. It started as with a guy in New York, and it keeps going to people all over the country. And I have this list of podcasts that each have referred me to. So it works. Right. If you work it. It's a power tool to work.
Yeah, and then it sounds like it just keeps multiplying out, right? It's not necessarily one-to-one linear. It sounds like one becomes multiple, but and from there the next recommendation is multiple and kind of multiplies out from there.
It's better and better, and it's different audiences every time because each podcaster aims at a different thing with his or her personality, with his or her background. You talked about something we're going to talk about. It's going to be spiritual. This is something I've really never done on a podcast, but you and I had this connection that made me think this will be something good to throw at Hunter and see where we go with it. And it's all experimentation. And when it works, you keep pumping it. And so I'm real excited about this. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that introduction. So just before we get too deep into a background or specific topic, I do want to just kind of have you take a moment to share just an overview. I know there's a lot that we can touch on if we want to go back to kind of the financial services part of your career, or just stay more recent. I'm indifferent. I think that where we fold in the At the Core topic and series, I think is very relevant for where you are now. But also, I really like to hear people's journey and just how things thread in throughout your story. So if you can, just take a minute and let us know, what's on your heart, who you are, and what I guess what brings you here today for.
Okay. So BA, MBA, banker. Didn't like banking. Yeah. I was at the third largest bank in the country, was moved from New York City to Chicago. Still didn't like banking. It was just not made for me. I can sell, I can make deals, I can approach people on a level that they feel comfortable talking to me. It wasn't doing it for me. So I said, okay, I'll go to the other side of the desk. I'll go meet the bankers at a corporation because I was doing corporate banking. Still didn't love it. Company was sold in 2001. We were at the very cusp of something brand new in 2000 called online credit card payments. Now, you got to put yourself back 20 years. It was the Wild West. It was crazy.
Sure.
No one knew what they were doing. We were just having fun with it. And I said to the company that was acquiring, I said, I sort of found this thing. Are you interested in it? I mean, would you like to know more about this? Nah, we're really not interested. I said, well, do you mind if I take it and run with it? And they said, go ahead, have a good time with it. They thought, oh, this guy's nuts. We're never going to do credit card processing online. Well, and then I found an organization that was training people to use credit card processing, and then I could twist what I learned from them into the online aspect. And I did that. I still do that. It's 20 years, almost 19 years now that I've been doing it.
Wow.
But I set out to start my company 2 days before September 11th, 2001. Bad idea. But we don't have perfect foresight. We don't know what's happening in the future. And in hindsight, at some point I said, this is stupid. I should go back to corporate. It's too hard. No one wants to see me. No one wants to talk to me. And this thing called online payments, forget it. No one wanted to learn anything new. They were too busy licking wounds. I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make something of it. And I did, because I saw the value. Now, I got a lot of gray hair. I'm in this electronic payments business much longer than most people are alive. This is crazy. But I have found niches that I'm interested in. I niche everything out. You can't be everything to everybody. Okay. I don't deal with restaurants. I don't deal with hotels. I don't deal with some areas of the business. I love working with e-commerce. I love working with nonprofits. I love working with individuals who want to sell their services, like lawyers or accountants or whatever. They want to just get paid electronically, because mailing an invoice, a paper invoice, is something they did in Venice 700 years ago. We're still doing that, which is really a damn shame. Yeah. So you can do this all electronically, and a lot of companies still don't do it, which is amazing to me. Anyway, my job is to get them out of it. Anyway, in 2007, in the last economic downturn, nothing like we got right now, but still a downturn, I was having a hard time sourcing new clients. And this friend of mine told me about LinkedIn. And I said, it's easier to say no than to try to learn something new. And I had Rolodexes. You probably remember what they were. You put business cards in them and you just rolled them around, and they went alphabetically, and you could find people. You had all their information right at your fingertips. And I had 3 Rolodexes. I had the good guy Rolodex, the middle guy Rolodex, and the guys I had always wanted to keep their information, but I knew I'd never find them again, just to keep their names in front of me. And I said, this is really inefficient. Let me look into this LinkedIn thing. So I started going to a bunch of courses and realized that, you know what? I can teach this stuff, but I can teach it from a marketing perspective. This is what I want you to do with it, and use it as a really great tool that it is. And no one was doing it then. It was all very, let me hold your hand and you click here. And it was very rudimentary. Right. And I saw past that. Been doing that now for 10 and a half years as a LinkedIn coach to individuals. I take people in all walks of life. From one guy, he was a 70-year-old former vice chairman of a corporation. He had just retired. He had lots of life left in him. He wanted to be a consultant to nonprofits and to family businesses. I helped him put his story out there, because he never had to. He never had a resume in his entire career, because he was always at the same company. To people, I'm talking to this guy right now. He's brilliant, but he can't talk about how brilliant he is, because he scares you when he starts talking. So he's got to tell his story. Really fascinating. Sure. To public relations people and marketing people who can talk about other people but can't talk about themselves. I have this way. I don't know what it is, but I get in your ear and I come out the other ear, and I work on the inside, and we work it out on your LinkedIn profile. One-to-one, a lot of fun. I train in corporations. I just signed a deal to train 35 insurance agents 2 times, once in January, once in February, next month and the month thereafter, about how to use LinkedIn effectively in insurance. Now, I'm not an insurance agent, but I know what they need to do, because everybody really, at the end of the day, needs to do so. So I train in a group, in a group session. And the best part of it is they coming back to me to show me what they did. So they're holding their feet to the fire to make them do something. Because how many times you gone to a webinar and you said, yeah, I'll do it, and you don't? Well, now they got to do it. So I train individuals. I train organizations. I train nonprofits. I write books. I write a blog post every business morning about LinkedIn. I can't contain myself. There is so much in my life that comes about that has a LinkedIn twist, or in my LinkedIn lens through my eyes, I see an opportunity and I want other people to know about it. And I'm very lucky in that I am the 5th highest growing, most followed LinkedIn coach in the world.
Yeah.
Now, there's 1,000 LinkedIn coaches in the world. To be number 5 amongst 1,000 is okay. And I love it because I'm saying something that people want to know. Relevancy and the ability to make it interesting keeps people sticky, as I like to call it. They want the next day, that day. They anticipate. So I'm having a ball. I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going because really, I have such a good time. And the satisfaction my clients get from being given permission to talk about themselves is so it transcedes me. It comes right through me, them to me. I feel good when they feel good. And we part great friends, and I've made amazing friends out of working with people on LinkedIn. Long answer to a short question.
No, I think that's obviously very relevant and encouraging to hear. Love the energy, and I guess there's a couple things in there that I probably had further questions to. When I think about LinkedIn and how you're helping different types of professionals, different markets, I know there's probably some fundamental things to that, but there's probably some nuanced things as well. Are you I'm thinking of what makes me curious. Is there a difference in how you approach training the traditional LinkedIn and Sales Navigator? Is there a distinction between the two, or is most of the focus on the traditional LinkedIn?
The traditional LinkedIn, because there's so much there that if you are not amazinger on your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn Navigators, Sales Navigators are not going to help you.
Right.
Because if you're boring, no one wants to buy from boring.
Right.
How many times have you gone into, I hate to use a bad example, but go into a car dealership and the first person that comes up to you, you go, oh, I don't want to buy a car from this person. This is horrible. He's going to bore me to sleep in the car. I don't want that. And you don't know what to do. Well, it's that sort of thing. You only want to align yourself with people who bring you things that you can benefit from as you fall and like what they're doing. And then you fall in love with them as the person to sell it when you sign the deal. So it's all a matter of why do you do what you do? Not what, not how. Let other people talk about how. Your endorsers on your skills and your recommenders. Let them say, that guy, Hunter, he says why he does what he does is this. If I recommend Hunter, I'm going to say, that guy, Hunter, he says why. I'll tell you how well he does his why. And it's all about, if you don't incite me to want to say how about your why, I'm not going to give you a good how. So it's it starts at the profile. Believe me, there's so much material to write in your profile that most people can spend 4 90-minute sessions with me with homework in between, and they're still rushing to finish. We really explore some fascinating areas. Like I said, they give themselves permission to talk about stuff. They'll say to me, did I tell you this? And I said, no, you didn't tell me that. And why didn't you tell me that 2 weeks ago? And that's another thread that we can weave into this thing, because you're telling me something that I'm hearing from a 30,000-foot view that they're not seeing objectively.
Right.
And it just goes on and on. And they'll call me even after we're finished the formal coaching side of my business, and they'll say, something I forgot to tell you something about 2 or 3 months ago. I was like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? So I always say to them, I'm your tennis coach. I'll teach you. You know how to hit the ball. Really, just about anybody can hit the ball. But do you do it well? Are you efficient in how you hit it? Is there style? Do you understand the nuances and the etiquette of the game? I'll teach you all the stuff you can't get anywhere else. And then you go out there and you practice like crazy. You play. And if you don't practice, you're going to waste the time and money you invited me to teach you. You waste your own money. And then when you feel like you're playing well, find another coach, maybe a Sales Navigator coach, to learn the nuances and the real fine points of Sales Nav. And I can do that stuff, but I really prefer the personal interaction because you can see, I love people. I love dealing with what makes them tick and what's going on in their head and where are they stuck.
Mhm.
People are stuck.
Mhm.
Comes from childhood. It's really sad. I was talking to another coach. He's just a general business coach, and we were comparing notes, and we were like doing the same thing at the end of the day, just generically. He's off here talking about how you can career coach on this, and you can pivot off of that, and maybe that resonates with you. And for me, it's not about getting a job through LinkedIn. It's about having a career narrative that tells your entire story. Where you came from in your past makes you who you are today.
Right.
I would not be doing this with you if I didn't have all my years of banking experience and corporate experience and all the 19 years of experience up until today. That makes me what I am today. And I know where I sort of know where I want to go in the future. Now, it may not be exactly where I want to go, or it may not present itself. This year didn't present itself really well back in 2019. We couldn't see this coming. Nonetheless, you make the best that you've got. You use the experience cards, like I call them, in your back pocket. You pull that card out, you flop it on the table, and you use that experience skill that you've got, and you move from there into your future. And that's what I like to get my clients to be aware of if they don't actually write it.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, I think most people tend to naturally treat it like it's just a bunch of separate data points. But I think if I hear what you're saying, it's let's take those data points and put them together and tell that story and show that journey in an effective way, where somebody that's just reading, your bio and your experience and putting the pieces together, that it's obvious that the story's there, that's in front of you. It's not something that somebody has to spend 30 minutes looking at your LinkedIn profile to kind of piece it together themselves.
Right. 2 points on that. One is we're brain dead right now. We are attention deficit to the nth degree. No one retains what they've seen once.
Mm-hmm.
That's especially when you read something on your screen. Now, if you hear it verbally, somebody says it to you, you'll retain it better than what you read. If you see sight and sound and color, like in a video, you'll really retain it. That's your best bet. But when somebody reads your LinkedIn profile, they're zooming through it. They're scooting through it, and they're not retaining it. What I teach my clients is say the same thing in different ways, whatever your themes are, in different places on your LinkedIn profile. So no matter how far they read into your LinkedIn profile, they might just absorb it in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The other thing is that we do such a bad job of talking about ourselves these days. Everybody writes so poorly. You have to write like you speak. It has to be your personality. Don't say, Mr. Halpert did this and Mr. Halpert did that. They're gonna die of boredom. They're gonna drop off. Make it fun. I play with words. I love using words on my profile. I love using other people's words that they've said about me on my profile. I think that's the best way to give yourself the credence you need by what other people have voluntarily said about you. So I go beyond what most people do by not only talking about me, but letting other people talk about me. So there's all sorts of things you can do here and play games with it. And, it can be fun. You don't have to have complete sentences. You can be yourself. And we don't always speak in complete sentences like I'm not doing right now. That was an incomplete sentence. That's how we speak. And if you can hear that person's voice in your head as you read them and you finally meet them, connect. You've connected in a really serious way.
Yeah. So back to the amazinger, I did notice how often is that? Do you get the actual request with that in there? I imagine you get a lot of requests. Being this with the following you've got, the status you've got. I laughed when I saw that just because that's the first time I've ever seen that, and I think it's cool, right? Especially for somebody like yourself, like you want to be intentional about who you connect with, and you want to a system like that to vet it out. So how did you get to the point where you put that in your bio?
There's a radio business announcer in New York City on one of the big radio stations. And he has in his LinkedIn profile, he's not a real believer in LinkedIn, but he just does it because he thinks he needs to do it. He says, please do not ask me to connect. He doesn't need any more connections. He's been in the business for 50, 60 years. He doesn't need more connections. He just feels like he needs a position on LinkedIn. And I first saw that and I went, geez, that's awful. That's just, I mean, that's cruel. And I said, you know what? No, he's pretty smart. So I put my own words to it, my own filter on it. And just for the audience, because they probably haven't read my LinkedIn profile, yes, I get a lot of people trying to connect to me. The worst that ever happened to me was an entire class in the University of the Philippines in the middle of the night. The teacher must have said, let's connect to Marc. Let's all do it and see how it works. And I woke up one morning, I had like 45 connection requests from Luzon in the Philippines. And I went, oh, and I would call, and I sent a note to the teacher because the teacher introduced herself. And I said, that's not cool. That is really not cool. Anyway, I get a lot of people who say, I'd like to connect with you. Well, good. Ring my doorbell anytime you want. Tell me what you want from me before I open the door. Right? That's the example. I will never let you in the door unless I am convinced you have something I need or want and I trust you. All right, now let's think about that. If you can't tell me the first time you ring the doorbell what you want, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn is not what you want. I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn because so-and-so told me that you have an expertise in this. I'd like to see if there's something that you could help me with. Those are the things I'm looking for. That's business. All right. We're in here for business. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do business and make friends secondarily, but it helps. It really, really helps. So in my profile, I wrote, I do not connect with just anybody who asks me. Please use the word amazinger in your connection request so I know that you are serious about being interested in doing business with me. So Hunter, let me tell you how many times I have seen the word amazinger in a LinkedIn profile, a request? Once.
Wow.
But let me tell you the best part of it. The number of connection requests has gone way down because I don't have to waste my time writing back to them. I'm sorry, but I don't connect with people I haven't done business with and haven't got to know. Please follow me. I mean, so the followers increase. I tell them to follow me in that same paragraph instead of connect with me. I'm not letting anybody into my house that I don't know. So it works. Really works.
Yeah.
I'm glad you laughed at it. That makes me feel like it's not too heavy-handed.
No, it didn't come across as heavy-handed to me, and I think it just introduces a different way for people to think about how they truly use it, right? I mean, I think there are a lot, even myself, I get, very random, just having the word podcast host in my headline triggers all kinds of, freelance and that's great. Like I actually used one that I connected with. So I see the value in it. But that's just one example that I've lived through where, there were a couple hundred that, over a very short period of time, after I had posted something that it was like I hit some trigger somewhere and this flood of messages and requests came through. So yeah, I think what you're positioning there just introduces a new way for people to think about, okay, what is meaningful to me? What are my intents? I'm not just here to try to connect with everybody for the sake of connecting,
Right.
And
Right.
creating just some meaningless number of connections.
Well, there used to be something in LinkedIn called LinkedIn Open Networkers, Lions, and they would connect to what I used to call anything with carbon life force. I mean, if it moved, they connected to it. And I say that if you're a promiscuous linker, and I use that word deliberately, you're going to get a disease. And that happens with people who connect to 18,000 people. And you say, hey, Bruce, I see you're connected to this guy, Hunter. I'd like to get a hold of Hunter. Can you help me? And Bruce says, I don't know Hunter. I said, well, Bruce, you're connected to Hunter. And he says, I don't know Hunter. And I said, look at Bruce. And I'm saying, well, you're a jerk. And Hunter, you should have been better about what you did with connecting to Bruce because he's not going to help you because he just unhelped you. He just made it really hard for me to get a hold of you. And I just made a judgment on you connecting to Bruce, which connects to anything that moves. So that's not a good thing. But better if I find another connection, I say, hey, John, I see you're connected to Hunter. Tell me how you know him. Oh, well, let me tell you. I mean, he was this and that, and I really enjoyed getting to know him. And, we went to school together, and, whatever the connectivity is, that gives me something to latch on. So when I call Hunter, I say, hey, Hunter, this is Marc Halpert. I just got off the phone with John Smith, and John said he went to school with you and he did some business with you. And you say, well, how did you know John Smith? Because I'm giving you the opportunity to ask an inquisitive question that creates conversation. From conversation, we build relationships. So it's all about just being smart. And if, again, back to my point, your question about Sales Navigator, if you can't convince me to want to work with you, the first words that come out of your mouth, I'm probably not going to want to buy from you. You're just striking at any ball that comes across the plate. And that's not a good way to be. That's not being an intelligent or a serious business person. And I've got 3,300 connections. I know them all. I've vetted all of them. They're all good. And if they're not good, eventually I weed them out. I take them, I release the connectivity because it didn't work. But the nice thing is that I can do this once a year on a rotating basis because I see everybody's work anniversary. So at least once a year, I've culled through every single person on my LinkedIn profile connection. And it's so easy. They do it for me at LinkedIn. I don't even have to think about it. So it says, Hunter had his first year anniversary at XYZ Corporation. Who's Hunter? I look up Hunter's. I'm using you as an example. It's not you. But I look him up on LinkedIn. I read his profile. I look at the date we connected. I try to contextualize it. And I say, didn't work. Just nothing happened.
Yeah.
He didn't ever comment on one of my posts. He didn't ever reach out to me. I reached out to him and he didn't reach out back to me. So, I just disconnect. And it works. And I keep it tidy. I keep my house neat. I don't have a lot of people ringing my doorbell anymore, which is good.